Our lovable mustachioed plumber Mario celebrated his 35th anniversary on the 13th of September 2020, and Nintendo made sure to honor the occasion with a number of announcements. Super Mario All-Stars made its way onto Nintendo Switch Online, we got a bundle of 3D games ported onto the Switch, a special anniversary Game & Watch handheld was released. In short, lots of nostalgia. They even made sure to include a page on their site dedicated to the history of Super Mario. That's great and all, but it only includes Super Mario games, which means it barely scratches the surface of the overall history of Mario. What about the spin-offs, the cartoons, the manga, the sweater simulator? For the past 3 months, I've been working on what turned into a series of 4 videos that will attempt to tell the complete history of Mario. It's been a huge undertaking, which is why I'm happy to announce that this video is actually sponsored by Squarespace. You see, I've had DPadGamer.com for a few years now, but never actually done anything with it. I always thought making a website was a complicated, difficult endeavor. Turns out Squarespace's all-in-one platform actually makes creating a site very doable and sort of fun. It's very flexible, meaning you can make pretty much whatever kind of site you want. I also think it's quite simple to use, because in just a few hours, I took my broken placeholder of a site and transformed it into something I will actually use, and am happy to share. If you'd like to make a site of your own, start your free trial today at squarespace.com/DPadGamer and use code DPadGamer to get 10% off your first purchase. Also, I should mention that I added a submission page to my site where you can send me suggestions, questions, and so on. I plan on improving my site throughout this 4-part series, so any feedback you have would be greatly appreciated. Again, you can go to squarespace.com/DPadGamer to start your free trial and use code DPadGamer for 10% off your first purchase. Big thanks to Squarespace for sponsoring this video and making both this mini-series and my site possible. Now, I believe we're ready to travel back about 40 years to where it all started. Mario was originally Jumpman, as you might know, the protagonist of the 1981 arcade game Donkey Kong. That game was created from some pretty interesting circumstances, which were explained in length in David Sheff's book Game Over, Press Start to Continue. The cliff notes of those circumstances are that in 1980, a man named Minoru Arakawa established the subsidiary Nintendo of America, or NOA, in New York City. After purchasing 3,000 cabinets of a game called Radar Scope, and unfortunately finding them quite hard to sell, he relocated NOA's headquarters across the country to a warehouse near Seattle, Washington. He pleaded to the then president of Nintendo, Hiroshi Yamauchi, to have a game developed for America which would also let him repurpose the unsold Radar Scope cabinets. Since most of Nintendo's key engineers and programmers were too busy, Yamauchi eventually put someone on the project, the apprentice to Gunpei Yokoi, who according to Yokoi, knew nothing about video games. Sounds like a pretty bad idea, but still. That apprentice was Shigeru Miyamoto. Since he had no experience programming a game, Miyamoto started by imagining many characters and plot concepts, eventually settling on a love triangle between a gorilla, carpenter, and a girl, which became the game Donkey Kong. After receiving and playing the game, the employees in the Nintendo of America warehouse ended up nicknaming the protagonist Mario. This was because they thought that he resembled the warehouse's property manager, Mario Segale. That nickname eventually made its way back to Miyamoto, who liked it, so the name later became official. Early tests of Donkey Kong was quite favorable, so the 2,000 Radar Scope cabinets were gutted and refurbished into Donkey Kong cabinets, which quickly sold out. A short time later, the game officially went on sale in July of 1981, and it did really well. In its first year, Donkey Kong brought in well over 100 million in sales. Following Donkey Kong's massive success, there were 3 companies that wanted the exclusive rights to create versions of the game for their home video game systems: Atari, Mattel, and Coleco. It was that last one that won out, with the ColecoVision home console being released in August of 1982, bundled with Donkey Kong, which sold very well. Since they had the rights, and Donkey Kong could clearly make money, Coleco released 3 figurines in the time leading up to Donkey Kong Jr.'s release. By today's standards, Mario looks really weird, but it was a decent representation of the game's character at the time. Also, I point this out so that I can bring up the fun fact that, hey, did you know that Mario's canonical age is supposed to be around 24 to 25 years old? That number comes from Miyamoto himself in a Japanese interview that took place in 2005. So, he doesn't look his age then or now, but the more you know. That said, not long after, Donkey Kong Jr. was released worldwide, which solidified the jumpy character's name as Mario in the minds of players everywhere. The following year, in March of 1983, we got Mario Bros. On the Game & Watch, which includes Luigi's first ever appearance. There was also Mario Cement Factory, released in April for the Game & Watch, in which Mario navigates elevators in order to funnel cement down to trucks and prevent cement from crushing his coworkers. It's weird, but I would argue that Mario's Bombs Away, released in October, again for the Game & Watch, is even weirder, because in that one, he's clad in military gear, desperately delivering bombs from left to right. That said, most importantly, this year saw the release of the arcade game, Mario Bros. It featured Mario, as well as Luigi, acting as plumbers, having them defeat various enemies down in the sewers below New York City. The bright green pipes, bricks, Shell Creeper, which looks like a Koopa, and overall plumber aesthetic went on to influence the rest of the series. As such, it's a pretty important game, and it absolutely blew up, with the Atari 2600 version of Mario Bros. Selling a total of 1.59 million cartridges. Mario, where are you? This year also saw Nintendo release their first home console in Japan called the Family Computer, or Famicom. It had ports of Donkey Kong and Donkey Kong Jr. as well as Popeye, for some reason. Outside of the video game world, Mario made his first appearance in an animated TV show with Saturday Supercade, which began airing in September of 1983. The show's episodes each had multiple shorter segments featuring characters from various series like Q*bert, Frogger, and Pitfall Harry. The segments featuring the characters from Donkey Kong had a similar premise to the Donkey Kong Circus Game & Watch game that released in 1984. Basically, Mario owned a circus where Pauline was an animal trainer and Donkey Kong was one of the animals that escaped. It's wacky in the way that only obscure cartoons can be, but it does give Mario some much needed characterization.
Right. Don't let anything happen to Donkey Kong. Sheesh. Donkey Kong. Missed me. Close, but no banana.
He seems nice enough, though he's determined to capture Donkey Kong and put a stop to his monkeying around. But really though, it's a huge difference from the marketing for Donkey Kong Jr. because in that one, like in one of the commercials, he's a straight up villain.
I'll get you too, Junior. I'm Donkey Kong Jr., and that's my papa. I'm trying to save him, and boy do I need your help.
I think a commentator said it best. Mario's most memorable quotes.
It's me, Mario. Let's go.
Save your papa, huh? Save yourself first.
All that said, 1983 was a special year for Mario. None of the games I listed relied on the then booming Donkey Kong name, and it's safe to say that the success of Mario Bros. On the arcade and subsequent consoles is what signaled to Nintendo that he was capable of being a truly franchise-leading character. That said, the following year was pretty uneventful for Mario, a calm before the storm, if you will. There was something new, mainly Versus Wrecking Crew, an arcade game featuring Mario and Luigi focused on breaking walls and demolishing buildings with a hammer. I also want to mention that Wrecking Crew was released the following year on June 18th for the Famicom, which is notable because, while it had largely the same gameplay, it did have a custom level maker which seems pretty ahead of its time. Unfortunately, saving levels required the keyboard and cassette tape-based data recorder, two accessories that only ever released in Japan. Mario also appeared in the aforementioned Donkey Kong Circus Game & Watch handheld, as well as Donkey Kong Hockey. Also in this year, he appeared in a few games released for the Famicom, acting as a sort of Easter egg, like he was the referee in tennis, the controllable platform in Pinball's Breakout-esque mode, and I believe the golfer in Golf. That said, we finally reached Nintendo's, and by extension, Mario's most important year yet, 1985. A brief bit of backstory, in 1983, the video game industry suffered a large-scale recession, mainly in the United States. This was due to an oversaturation of game consoles, lots of knockoffs, increased competition from home computers, and a decrease in consumer confidence. Basically, the video game industry's revenue plummeted by 97% in just 2 years, and some wondered if the industry would ever recover.
And you can play them only on the Nintendo Entertainment System. Now you're playing with power.
Its new 10 NES lockout chip would prevent the use of unlicensed game on their system, and they established a strict product approval and licensing policy. That's how the Golden Nintendo Seal of Approval came to be. Also, the images on the cartridges were made to be a close representation of on-screen graphics, which helped address the lack of consumer confidence because apparently that wasn't common at the time. Unlike with the Famicom, Nintendo of America marketed the console mainly to children, which meant enforcing a policy censoring profanity, sexual, religious, or political content. Also, we can't forget that they had the optional NES accessory Rob, or Robotic Operating Buddy, or the slick-looking light gun, all of which helped Nintendo get closer to the previously distant toy market. In short, the Nintendo Entertainment System launched following a rough period for video games in the West, and they did everything they could to set themselves up for success. Their flagship game, launched alongside the NES, was Super Mario Bros. From what I've heard, that game is pretty good, and standing as the best-selling video game for years, with it currently standing at the 6th highest-selling video game 35 years later with 48 million copies. All that said, if we focus in on the game itself, it really was something special. No longer limited to a single screen, you can now jump around from left to right. You could stomp on enemies, many of which were new and weird looking. You could also use and collect handy items like the Super Mushroom, Super Star, Fire Flower, and 1-Up Mushroom. On that topic, it also introduced the setting of the Mushroom Kingdom, the resident kidnappee, Princess Toadstool, later widely known as Princess Peach, and the fearsome villain, King Koopa, aka Bowser. Oh, and of course, this game had sound effects and music that'd be reused, remixed, expanded upon, and remembered all the way into insert current year, composed by Koji Kondo. In the interest of keeping things brief, I'll leave it there, but I hope it's clear just how influential Super Mario Bros. Was and still is, all the way till now. In 1986, we got 3 interesting Mario things. Firstly, Nintendo released Super Mario Bros. 2 in Japan, which was played on their brand new Famicom Disk System. The game was designed for players who had mastered the original. It had largely the same visuals, but added stuff like a poison mushroom, which would deal damage if the player touched it, as well as new enemies like the blue-tinted Bowser, which acted as World 8-4 and 9-3's mid-boss. In some sources, it was called Bowser's brother, but I think that's more of a naming anomaly than some sort of hidden lore. There was also a red, more aggressive version of Piranha Plants, some levels had strong wind that would push the player around, and there was even upside-down pipes, which was a first. While it's definitely neat, by design the game was pretty difficult, which is why Nintendo of America chose a different game to serve as Super Mario Bros. 2 in the West. As such, this one would later be known as Super Mario Bros. The Lost Levels. There was also I Am a Teacher, Super Mario Sweater, released in August for the Famicom Disk System in Japan. As you can tell by the name, it was designed as a sweater sewing simulator. It was put together by Royal Industries Co., a Japanese appliance and sewing machine company. I believe the idea was that players could enter their measurements and add pictures of characters like Mario, Luigi, Peach, and Bowser. You'd then be able to either send the final design to Royal Industries to get your sweater made, or connect a Royal Industries sewing machine and have it do it that way. It's weird, and as far as I can tell, information on this game is pretty limited, but it's an odd yet neat piece of Mario history. There was also Mario's first ever animated film. Its title translates to Super Mario Bros. The Great Mission to Rescue Princess Peach. It's actually one of the 2 first ever film adaptations of video games, the other being Running Boy Star Soldier no Himitsu, both of which released on July 20th of 1986. The film was a very, very rough interpretation of the events of the original Super Mario Bros. Game. It has a lot of interesting design choices, just look at those toads. Weirdness aside, I think it's interesting that in this film, Mario and Princess Peach aren't an item, you know? The teal dog that accompanied the weirdly colored Mario Bros. Turned out to be Prince Haru Oji. I'm probably saying all these names wrong. Having been cursed by King Koopa. In the end, Prince Haru celebrates a happily ever after with Princess Peach, while Mario and Luigi return to work at their grocery store. Okay then. 1987 was the quietest year for Mario yet, as there was no new games released for our favorite plumber. That's because Nintendo was hard at work on stuff to come. In the meantime, Mario did appear in Punch-Out as the referee, which released for the Famicom and NES in 1987. And also, there was another game, Yume Kojo Doki Doki Panic, released this year in Japan, which, at the time, had no real connection to the Mario series. But I bring that up because the following year, that changed, because in October of 1988, North America got Super Mario Bros. 2, which was actually a retooled version of the aforementioned Doki Doki Panic. since they reworked something that wasn't originally going to be a Mario game and introduced a lot of new and weird stuff, like new enemies that became Mario staples, Shy Guys, Birdos, Pokies, and Bob-Ombs. A lot of the inherited skills for the playable characters became standard, like Luigi's higher jumps and Peach's floating ability. Toad, on the other hand, didn't carry on his fast speed and poor jumping in most games, though they did reappear for his appearances in Super Mario 3D World and Super Mario Run. So yeah, while it was a weird inclusion for the Mario series at a time, Super Mario Bros. 2 ended up being really influential on the series as a whole. That same year, actually just 14 days later, Japan got Super Mario Bros. 3, with the North American release coming about 4 months after that. This one introduced things like the Frog Suit, Goomba Shoe, Hammer Suit, P-Wing, Super Leaf, and Tanuki Suit, all of which ended up sticking around in one way or another. This was also the first time we saw the Koopalings, which became standard enemies in, among other things, the new Super Mario Bros. Line of games. As for non-gaming stuff, quick shoutouts to The Legend of Zelda and Super Mario Bros. Bedroom set. The artwork atop the lid was especially great, unintentionally making Mario look like a villain. Yet again. This year also marked the start of what I believe is the first Mario-focused comic/manga series. The Super Mario manga, also known as KC Mario, was made by Kazuki Motoyama, and it was released in the Japanese manga magazine called Comic Bob-Omb. In it, all of the characters, Mario included, have a more rounded, youthful design than what has been seen previously. While I can't speak to the quality of his actual dialogue because I can't speak Japanese, just by visuals alone, he seems more reminiscent of the fun, light-hearted character that we've come to know. KC Mario ran from 1988 to 1998, often roughly adapting whatever Mario game was recently released. Each volume had a few color pages at the start and black and white for the rest, often totaling somewhere in the 130 page count. There were 43 total volumes released across its span, which makes for a pretty solid run. Finally, we've reached 1989, where we got Nintendo's second generation of handheld console, the Game Boy. Much like the NES before it, the Game Boy sold very well, with its entire stock of 300,000 units selling out in Japan within the first 2 weeks. In North America, the Game Boy had 5 games released alongside it: Tetris, Tennis, Baseball, Alleyway, and Super Mario Land, depending on whether or not you consider the Game & Watch handhelds actual handheld gaming consoles. This was the first time Mario actually went portable for real. It was also the first time Princess Daisy would appear in a game, which was pretty neat. Outside the gamosphere, this year saw the start of the Super Mario Super Show, a partial live-action, partial animated series focused on Super Mario Bros. 1 and 2, with the Friday episodes featuring Zelda segments. This show starred Wrestling Hall of Famer Captain Lou Albano as Mario, while Luigi was played by Canadian actor Danny Wells. The show, both the animated and live-action segments, were weird, goofy, and from what I've seen, a lot of fun. Its magical song, Do the Mario, performed by Albano as the show's closing theme, will always live on in our hearts.
Do the Mario, swing your arms from side to side. Come on, it's time to go. Do the Mario, take one step, and then again, let's do the Mario all together now. You got it. It's the Mario.
As will its weird commercials.
Holy cannoli, kids, I'm Mario, and I'm telling you, if you're not watching the Super Mario Bros. Super Show, you're gonna turn into a Goomba!
Connected to that is a bit of fun, maybe unintentional lore. You see, in the July/August 1989 issue of Nintendo Power, during a piece talking about Nintendo's varied history, they introduced the upcoming Super Mario Super Show. There's some character art of Mario, Luigi, Peach, and also a detailed piece depicting Bowser reaching through the screen towards Mario and company, and in that painting on the right is what could be Mario's father or grandfather. This piece of art was later redrawn in some capacity because it shows up on a Marsh Allen Products Child Snack and Play tray, which means something? Nothing? Who knows? It's still neat, at least. While the Super Mario Super Show is a classic to many, rightfully so, I wouldn't be surprised if you've never heard of its spin-off show. Also created by DIC Entertainment, King Koopa's Cool Cartoons began airing in the 1989 holiday season. This was another live-action Mario-themed show hosted by King Koopa, who was originally portrayed by Christopher Collins. Koopa would interact with the live audience of children called King Koopa's Troopas, show unrelated old-school cartoons, and give away Nintendo-related prizes. The show only aired in Southern California on KTTV 11 and later the Children's Channel in the United Kingdoms as a way to gauge the show's popularity. While I can see what they're going for, King Koopa's rubber design just comes across as unsettling. It's one of the few times you could unironically call something cursed. The show was understandably dropped after just a single season. Released exclusively in Japan, there was the Armada anime series, Super Mario Bros., which were 3 original video animations based on fairy tales featuring the Mario characters, released this year. The fairy tales used as inspiration were Momotaro, aka Peach Boy, in which Mario is born from within a large peach, raised by 2 elderly Hammer brothers, learns of the kidnapping of his sister, Princess Peach, and races off to defeat King Koopa. This one is extra special because it ends with Mario threatening a subdued King Koopa at gunpoint in order to get him to stop plundering the lands. No, I am not joking. The second one is Super Mario Isunboshi, aka the 1-inch boy, where Mario is a 1-inch tall boy. After being eaten by King Koopa, Mario fights his way back out using a sword, and then after being coughed up, Mario thoroughly humiliates King Koopa by slicing off his horns and eyebrows with his sword, and then, you know, Princess Peach turns him into a real boy with a magic hammer and they drive off. It's cool. Lastly, Super Mario Shirayuki Hime is just Snow White, but with Mario characters. All in all, very weird by today's standards. Yeah, that's all I got. I can't really think of what else to say here. It's just weird. This year saw the release of 2 short animations which, unfortunately, haven't really been preserved online all that well. One of them is Super Mario no Shobotai. I'm saying that all wrong. Basically, Super Mario's Fire Brigade. The other is Super Mario's Traffic Safety. They were both PSAs aimed to, teach the kids. But unfortunately, while there are some copies out there, at least for the traffic safety one, it hasn't been uploaded in full online. Luckily, YouTube user GTV Japan was able to witness the film live at a showing in 2017 and has actually uploaded images and a bit of video from said showing. If you're interested in seeing more and want to see what they were able to capture at said showing, head down to the description and follow the link to that video. From hot to cold, let's quickly touch on someone's favorite event, probably, Super Mario Bros. At the Ice Capades, aka Super Mario on Ice. The Ice Capades were a traveling entertainment show which was originally founded back in 1940. Their theatrical shows over the years had more than a few licensed characters and properties, like Flintstones, Ewoks from Star Wars, and also Mario. That Super Mario performance was part of their 50th anniversary show, which toured from 1989 to 1990. It also aired on ABC as a TV special on December 28, 1989, hosted by Jason Bateman and Alyssa Milano, which created this fun little interaction.
Don't tell me. First, you've never been to the Ice Capades, and now you've never played video games? It doesn't matter. You've never played video games until you played video games with the video prince. That.
As for the contents of the Mario show itself, it's made for kids, which means it has some goofy costumes and fun moments. All in all, nothing spectacular, but in the context of Mario's history as a whole, I think it's sorta inspiring. To recap, Mario was born from a game with odd circumstances, took on a life of his own with his own series, and went on to pretty much headline both the NES and Game Boy. Along the way, he had his own movie, multiple different animated things, a manga series, and even an appearance on Ice. And that was only in the first 10 years. We'll be picking back up where we left off in part 2 by delving into the 1990s of Mario history, so be sure to subscribe so you get notified when that goes live. In the meantime, I'd like to thank my channel members for their support, with an especially big thanks to Christy Huntress, Pseudonymous, Jermanger, Achilles Rhodes, and Skylar Clark for being superfans. And of course, thanks to you for watching this far, and Squarespace for sponsoring these videos. If you're looking for something to watch while you wait for part 2, there's probably a couple videos on screen, so maybe click those or something like that. That's about it for this one. I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.